Corporate Finance, Core, Topic 10, International Corporate Finance. Learning objective number 4. We're going to hedge FX transaction losses. So with this little example, suppose Ingersoll Rand, a company, enters into a contract to buy $100,000 in equipment from a German firm when the exchange rate is $1.10 today. However, delivery is 1 year from today. And at that point, they'd have to buy 100,000 euros and get the equipment. Now, when Ingersoll goes to pay the invoice, the exchange rate is $1.30. So the euro appreciated from $1.10 to $1.30. So at the time when they enter into a contract, they expected to pay $1.10 per euro for 100,000 euros. They expected to pay $110,000. However, when the contract came due 1 year later for delivery, the exchange rate's $1.30, so it's going to cost them $130,000 to buy the 100,000 euros to buy the equipment. So they are going to spend $20,000 more. We'll call that $20,000 a transaction gain or loss. In this case, a loss, by taking the value of an FX position times the change in exchange rates from when you initially put on the position to when it came due. So in this case, the V is the currency amount. Now, if it's a payable, just make it minus, and if it's a receivable, make it positive. So if I just do that equation, minus my V is the 100,000 euros, times the difference in the new minus the original exchange rate, 130 minus 110. What it's telling you is you're spending 20 cents more per euro times 100,000 euros. It's going to cost you $20,000. And so that's a pre-tax loss, transactional loss on FX. If this were a receivable and they're going to receive $100,000, that would have been good news. They would have received $100,000 more. So what are some hedging strategies for Ingersoll Rand? Well, they could have bought the $100,000 today and deposited it in a German bank earning interest and just wait it until the bill was due. And that way they wouldn't care what the exchange rate was, but they'd have to use up their cash today. They could enter into a forward hedge. So Ingersoll Rand could enter into a forward contract when they first signed the contract for the equipment to buy 100,000 euros at the forward price on the expected payment date. That's the maturity of the forward contract. And third, Ingersoll Rand could have entered into or could have purchased a call option on 100,000 euros using a strike price on the expected payment date. However, they'd have to pay that premium up front, and we could have used the BlackScholes model to price it. So let me talk about the BlackScholes model and currency options. So it's combining two confusing things, right? Currencies using direct and indirect quotes, and options. So whenever you use the BlackScholes model, which we used in the last topic, topic 9, we said we just plug in the parameters and the BlackScholes spits out either a call price or a put price. So here are the BS call and BS put functions we used in the last topic. And what if we're trying to price a 105 strike on a euro? So say the euro is currently selling for 110. I'm going to put that as my spot price parameter. And what if you want a contract to buy or sell, a call or a put on euros at a strike price of 105? The V in the BlackScholes model using currencies will be the expected standard deviation of percent changes in the exchange rate over the period of the option. The option period will put 1 year. Where it says risk-free rate, put in the U.S. Treasury, U.S. 1-year Treasury rate, because since it's a 1-year option. Now here's the trick. For currencies, where it says dividend yield, put in the foreign sovereign rate. So in this case, I would probably put in the German sovereign bond rate for 1 year maturity and say that's 2%. And the reason why you do this is if you hold a stock, you receive a dividend. We're using this model, which was made for stocks. If you hold a currency, you're not just going to lay it on the desk. You're probably going to deposit it in a foreign bank and earn some interest rate. So foreign interest rates are kind of like the dividend payments you receive from currency. And then I've inserted my call and put functions, and this tells me that the call will cost me 7 cents per euro, and the put would cost me 3 cents per euro. But let's talk about indirect quotes. Indirect quotes always screw up everything. Life would be easy without indirect quotes. But let's say that the current spot price of the yuan, we know the current spot price of the yuan, and what we're trying to find is the price of a call or put in dollars. So what I need to do is make sure that I input all the parameters in direct terms, even though it's an indirect quote. So whatever the spot price is of the currency is, it's going to be for the yuan, it's going to be indirect quote. I need to convert it to dollars. So that's roughly 14 cents, which is roughly about 7 yuan per dollar. However, when you plug it into BlackScholes, just make sure you put it in dollar terms. So invert whatever the indirect quote is. And what if we're trying to price a 14-cent call? So again, this is a direct quote for a yuan. And go ahead and put the yuan's volatility, the U.S. interest rate. This is a 1-year contract, and I put interest rates in China. And this says that the price of a call would be 0.6 pennies per yuan, and the price of a put would be 0.7 pennies per yuan, and that would be the cost of the option. So let's do a little exercise where a company, a fictional company, I'll call it Multinat Corporation, MNC, has a very simple business model. They produce products in China, paying CNY, Chinese currency. They sell its products in Europe, receiving EUR, US dollars, and they manage it from their headquarters in the United States, and they have a little bit of USD expense. So we're going to look at MNC's expected profits based on the current exchange rate forecasts. And then we'll see what happens as we vary the exchange rate, and then we'll design some hedging strategies. So I'll go to the spreadsheet, and here is the expected exchange rate 1 year from now, $1.10 and $1.10 per euro and 6 yuan per dollar. I then have my revenue of is expected to be 105,000 euros next year. I'll convert that into dollars at $1.10. They're expected to have revenues of 115,500. I have operational expenditures of 350,000 yuan due in 1 year. I'll convert that to dollars using the exchange rate of 6 to 1, and that's $58,000. And there's $45,000 of U.S. expense. So they're expecting to make $12,000, 167 next year. And I did a little data table here in which I have the existing EBITDA, and I have the exchange rate for the yuan going from 5 to 7 and the euro going from 90 cents to $1.30. I created my data table, and you can see the worst scenarios are when the yuan is trading at 7, which is a depreciation. The best scenarios are when the yuan is at 7. That's a depreciation of the yuan, right? Because again, remember, that's an indirect quote. For the exchange rate goes from 6 to 7, that's an appreciation of the dollar, depreciation of yuan, which makes our Chinese labor less expensive. And when the euro is trading at $1.30, that's also a good scenario because my revenues are worth more in dollars. So here's my exposure to those two exchange rates. I'm exposed to an appreciation of the yuan I have a positive exposure to an appreciation or depreciation of the yuan and an appreciation of the euro. I have losses when the yuan appreciates and the euro depreciates. So let's talk about designing a hedging strategy using a forward contract. Actually, 2 forward contracts. So what Multinat Corporation could do is, since they're expecting to buy 350,000 CNY in 1 year, they'll just enter into a contract to buy 350,000 yuan at that 6 yuan per dollar. Assume they can negotiate that. So that would be a forward price and the expected spot. And they enter into a forward contract to sell 105,000 euros next year at 110. If they do that, and let's assume that's a cash settlement contract, Well, think about it, first of all, even if we're not cash settlement, you no longer have risk in exchange rates, right? If you know you're going to pay 350,000 yuan and you have a contract to buy them at 6, and you know you're going to get 105,000 euros and you have a contract to sell them at $1.10, you no longer have risk. But we can input that into our spreadsheet. So I have a little space here where it says CNY forward and Euro forward. So this is where I'm going to put the profits from the forward contracts. So they're going to be the buyer of CNY. So I'm going to put in whatever the spot price turns out to be. I'll make a link to this cell here where it says 6 minus my my current or my forward price 1.6 and times the quantity. So remember, I'm going to make this all in direct terms to get this to work out. So I need to be 1 over the spot price for the currency. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, it's going to be equals 1 divided by whatever the spot price turns out to be. That's ST minus 1/6 is my forward price times 350,000 yuan. And then for the second equation, it's going to be F minus ST. Since they're the seller of forwards, it's F minus ST times Q. So 110 minus whatever the spot price is times 105. So equals open 110, $1.10 minus whatever the spot price turns out to be next year times 105. And notice this worked out perfectly. They no longer have exposure. No matter what happens to the exchange rate, they are covered. So let's do an example. We're in B4. I'm just going to change the exchange rate to $1.05. So that's worse for them since the revenues go down. But notice they make money on the forward. And everything is still constant at 12,167 profit. I'm going to undo that. What if the exchange rate goes from 6 to 3? An appreciation, a massive appreciation of the CNY. I do that, and these expenses went way up in dollars, the CNY expenses. But notice I make $58,000 in the CNY forward contract. And again, I'm fixed. So this is how I could design a strategy for hedging their costs in CNY and revenues in euro. And just notice I'm going to make a little change here on the slide where it says ST. I'm going to put 1 over ST just to remind you that everything here has to be in direct terms when doing these calculations to get the answers in dollars. Now the reason why it has to be this way, think about it. I need to have dollar per yuan here times yuan. Yuan cancels out. That's why this answer is in dollars. Another thing just to note about this spreadsheet, these where I've typed in the 110 and 6 euros, I'm sorry, the 110 and the 6 yuan, I'm assuming that's the expected exchange rate. That's going to vary to create that data table. However, when I type in the formulas for F minus ST and ST minus F, I'll type in the F because I don't want, that's not going to vary. You know, once you enter into the contract, that becomes the forward contract for payoffs, or forward price for payoffs. And then we'll just, last slide, we'll talk about, well, what if they get an option? Instead of a forward, they get a call option to buy 350,000 yuan and a put option to sell 105,000 euros. Well, that's a little bit more complicated as far as the modeling of it. The effect is pretty easy to see. What it shows is you then only have upside and have no downside. So for the call option to buy 350,000, I'll see if I can get this in the first time. I'm just going to modify that equation. It's going to be equal to the max of 0, comma, 1 over whatever the spot price times turns out to be, minus 1/6 times 350,000, minus 350,000 times the price of the option per unit. So where's my price of the, well, looks like I'm given the price of the call price on CNY, and that's going to be 1 penny. So back here, I guess I'm in a different section. Let's go to the different section. There it is. I had the formula in there already. There it is. So there's the cost of the option, 350,000 times 1 penny. That's the cost of the option. And then there's my max zero, ST minus F, ST minus the strike times the quantity. And then I flip that for the put option to sell 105,000 euros. I'm going to sell 105,000 or buy a contract on 105,000 euros. That's going to cost me 5 cents per euro. And then here's the payoff of the put contract. And again, notice the payoff contract, or the cash flows now. I'm going to gain money if the currency goes in my favor, which means a devaluation of the yuan or an appreciation of the euro. But I have no exposure in the other direction because I'm 100% hedged. So in this example, we talked about how to hedge FX transaction losses using options and forward contracts and how to model that exposure.